You want to be a witch hunter. Adorable. Like applying for the world's worst startup. No office, no breaks, just pitchforks, and everybody hates you. You are hopping for Van Helsing. You're getting guy with hemorrhoids who can't read. Let's get one thing straight, this gig is less Buffy, more budget home inspector with a fixation on goats and suspicious moles. Your main tools: a stick, some cold coffee, and a handbook plagiarized from last year's angry pamphlet. If you're lucky, you'll get a badge made from flattened tin and a hearty pat on the back from someone with scurvy. Executive perks none. The first guy to make this a career, Hunruch Crump, literally wrote Malleus Maleficum because he was mad no one took him seriously. Think disgruntled Rudut Mod, but he can torture you for bad vibes. Crump's best move: reschedule due process, for never then invent pricking, dunking, and a whole calendar of hobbies for people with too much rope. Honestly, half the job is explaining why the neighbor's cow died. The other half is blaming women because medieval logic is basically just, oops, still sexist. Let's talk daily grind. A typical call-out: Mrs. Beatrice claims her beer went sour. Solution: gather 12 angry neighbors, squint at the nearest widow, and announce witchcraft. Then you're mud-wadding to her cottage while gout flares up, recording testimonies on stained parchment by candlelight. Once you get there, congrats, it's you, a bucket of freezing water, and a suspect who probably bakes the only edible bread in town. Try not to drown her. No one wants to clean up that mess. You'll need to love paperwork. And fire. Mostly fire. But spoiler, the only thing burning out faster than the alleged witches is you. Hope you like lists, because you'll be collecting confessions, inventories of witchy implements, and neighbor complaints written in handwriting that looks like chicken footprints. Bonus points if you can read Latin. No one else can, but your boss is obsessed with it. Speaking of bosses, imagine every meeting is a one-man HR review conducted by someone who thinks nosebleeds are a sign of the devil. Do well and you're efficient. Fail and you're complicit. Office Christmas party. Just you, a hangman, and a barrel of regrets. Nobody wants you around. Not the peasants, not the priest, not even the local rats. Romanticizing the hunt. Hope you're into spa days at the stocks. Witch hunting means blisters, boils, chilblains, and at least 2 new rashes. 1 week and you'll have a beard of lice, a purse of half-rotted currency, and a charming reputation as the guy who set my cousin on fire. You thought it would be glory and folklore. Instead, it's supporting evidence for future therapy. The only one in awe is probably the town's undertaker, and he's never smiled in his life. Want to make a difference? Go explain to the baker's wife why you torched her rolling pin just to be safe. So go ahead, start your new quest. Daydream about glory, ignore the rashes, and try not to piss off the baker's wife. Congratulations, in 1 week you're lower on the food chain than the village rats. The best thing you'll catch isn't a witch, it's fleas. Still want the hat? Didn't think so. HR. The department that solves your problems by creating new ones. In medieval witch hunting, congratulations, you're what HR looks like without dental plans or irony filters. Your whole job is people management, but with more yelling and fewer basics like lunch breaks or oxygen. Let's be honest, your open door policy is just a missing wall plank. Need to file a grievance. Pray the priest isn't busy. Think you've been wrongly accused. Sorry, that's just onboarding. Don't worry about hostile work environments, they're all hostile. Your hearing process involves ropes, and your exit interviews end with someone screaming heretic. Most HR disasters just get a slap on the wrist. Your version ends with firewood. Want to review your employment contract? Too bad. The only thing in writing here is your name pinned to the town notice board under wanted dead or alive. Paperwork. You can't read, but somehow you're trusted to destroy lives based on rumors shouted over pig troughs. Background checks are 2/3 gossip, 1/3 medieval Yelp review. Half the time people vanish because they blinked wrong at the church bell. That counts as a red flag. In 1480, 600 Krumka, and yes, that's a real guy, not a cursed IKEA lamp, printed the malleus motherfucker. It's the medieval HR manual, 300 pages of blaming women for hailstorms. At Google, that gets you a TED Talk, not a bonfire. Want a learning and development program? Try Trial by Ordeal. Survive scalding water promotion. Sink in the River Perks package includes rest in peace. Employee wellness. Well, less would be a kindness. Your ergonomic chair is a plank, your office plants are mold, and your work-life balance is work until you're dead. You sleep on straw in the giant group project from hell, 20 villagers, one bed, infinite lice. Weekly meetings are torches and pitchforks. Benefits include not dying before dawn. PTO means permanent torch obliteration. Need team building activities. You do trust falls into rivers with rocks tied to your feet. Overheard gossip is a trigger for KPI review. How many suspects, how few survivors. Everything's a policy violation. Take the day off. Poof, absenteeism, now you're the witch. Speak up. Office politics means a mob with rocks. File a complaint. You file your own teeth down so you don't clench through them during the next trial. Upside, no annual reviews. Downside, just reviews non-stop. Co-op loyalty programs, more like last one standing. And when the boss wants results, you produce moral clarity by inventing confessions. Now you're middle management, hated by all, trusted by none, always one slip up from unemployment via execution. Still want to lead the team? Don't worry, you're not getting a gold watch. Maybe a blackened steak. After all this, you realize even Hunruch got fired by the church for being too much of an HR disaster. The original HR burnout. You, still mid-probation, still surrounded by fire, still rewriting this quarter's code of conduct on someone's back. Welcome to HR medieval style. Still chained. Still not promoted. Still flammable. Free lunch. Try free fungus growing in your bucket. That's your starter kit as a medieval witch hunter. Constant suspicion, 2 empty pockets, and a skin condition so aggressive you'll start to consider moss a moisturizer. Congratulations, your career's already on fire, and not even the good heroic kind. Paranoia comes standard. You don't just look over your shoulder, you actively sprain your neck doing it. Every neighbor's glaring through their shutters, knowing you're one bad accusation away from burning high society, or whoops, accidentally flaming an entire bakery because bread rose suspiciously fast. Forget public trust. Your social circle is a noose. Tight, itchy lowers property values. Even your own family looks at you sideways because who knows what counts as witchcraft these days. Hyuga's been sneezing all week. Better try him for demonic hay fever. Let's talk salary. Actually, let's not, because it's mostly IOUs and a handful of pitiful pennies flicked at your boots. Muthya Hupkins, the so-called Watchfunda General, tried to charge overtime for exorcisms and still died broke and probably scratching. Got a problem with inflation. There's a plague for that. By the time you're paid, you can't afford soap, much less therapy. Or shoes. Welcome to the exclusive Mudfoot loyalty program. Your greatest bonus. Room temperature gruel at the local tavern if you're not run out before your bowl's empty. Ask about dental and you'll get a hard look and a handful of salt. Enjoy seasoning your loose teeth. The benefits package is, let's say, unconventional. Travel opportunities. Sure. Ever wanted to see the next town stocks gallows in public disgust? Relocation happens fast usually because the previous town wants you gone before their cows start levitating. And there's always that promotion from suspicious stranger to enemy of the realm overnight. Management loves a quick turnover. And the dress code. Oh, you want style. You get vermin. You want armor. You get scabs. Every woolen hem is crawling. Every seam is a highway for lice. If you ever wondered what medieval luxury feels like, imagine Netflix password sharing, except the password is your blood and everyone's logging in. Your boots smell like sheep panic and wet mushrooms. Capes. Only if you count ragged blankets mandatory for that damp, desperate silhouette look that's so in this century. Hygiene is an evolving concept. Water, for drinking or dying, not scrubbing humanity off your elbows. Baths equal suspicion. Too clean and suddenly it. He must be in league with Satan or at least French. You'll spend nights itching, mornings scratching, and every midday wondering if you're getting possessed or just allergic to your own existence. Sleep tight. You won't. Judges glare, villagers hiss, and something's always chewing on your dignity in the dark. The only thing worse than counting sheep is counting boils. One day it's a false confession. The next it's a rash that spells "hire me" across your arms. Add in midnight knocks on your door. Never a love letter, always a summons, sometimes a rock through the window. Restful dreams are for people who didn't accuse half their block of transforming into toads. Mental health support. You get a wooden stake to lean on and a pamphlet titled, "Have You Tried Being Less Haunted?" Pep talks consist of "work harder, don't catch fire," followed by suspicious glances at your warts. If you're lucky, you develop a sense of irony before the pitchforks arrive. You thought you'd sign up to hunt evil and retire a hero. Turns out you just traded your soul for ringworm and notoriety. Still want to complain about your desk job? Try itching through damnation. Heroism, it turns out, only pays in blisters. You wanted a uniform. Medieval watchfunda, chic all black cloak all the time because camouflaging your conscience is really on brand. Don't expect tailored sleeves or supernatural drip. This is less dark academia, more some guy's burial shroud with extra fleas. Dry cleaning. Hilarious. You haven't even got soap. You want the look. You get the itch. Every seam's alive, ticks, lice plague. The only thing darker than your hood is the stuff squirming in it. At least no one expects you to smell nice. Bonus. The cloak isn't just a costume. It's a portable accusation booth. Stains map out your moral geography. Yesterday's spult beer, last week's sheep's blood, this morning's breakfast you failed to hold down after seeing the interrogation room. The colors don't fade because you enter with hope and exit with mildew. Is that patch from when you tripped chasing a witch or the time you sat too long in the stocks? Hard to tell. Best not to ask. The villagers are watching. Heavy fabric, heavy secrets. You stride through the square like some haunted Batman of rural despair, except you're broke, your gadgets suck, and the only thing in your utility belt is a half-eaten onion. Cosplay with consequences. Shoulders back scowl on pretending your shadow is authority, and not just the sun hitting your ragged hem. And the weather, not your ally. Summer, you stew inside the cloaking equivalent of a medieval crockpot, marinating in your questionable choices. Winter wind turns your cape into a flapping accusation, reminding everyone there's no insulation from suspicion. Rain just means you're dragging around 3 extra pounds of water and regret. The symbolism's as subtle as a rock black for sin eater, invisible stains for literally everything else. You're supposed to be a shadow of divine justice. Really, you look like an unpaid theater extra on crime scene mud hut edition. All part of the act. Authority by drapery trust secured in threadbare wool. Shoes, hope you like mud. Cloak hem churns it up, dragging more dirt than a medieval rumor mill. If you're lucky, the rodents living in your folds will jump ship before you get accused of unnatural familiars. The local kids are genuinely scared of you, or at least of the things falling out of your sleeves. Speaking of honesty, the bailiffs lie. You lie to them. Everyone swears they saw someone fly. It was probably just a goose with ambitions. Let's get serious. Testimony is basically medieval Twitter minus the hashtags and with more pitchforks. If witnesses say you had devil's marks under your cloak, don't expect anyone to fact-check. By sundown, the cloaks hiding your guilt, your debts, may be a small rodent colony. Welcome to medieval transparency, all secrets, zero sunlight. Office perks, permanent paranoia. The cloak's supposed to single you out as justice incarnate, but half the village wonders how long before you're next on the docket. Turns out a habit of judging others looks a lot like a target when the fashion is basically, he might be cursed. So you wanted the costume, you got the curse, still think you're the hero. Just wait until you hang that cloak and it tries to hang back. Medieval fit check fails every time. You want to do your job right, but there's a manual. Of course there's a manual. And surprise, it's in Latin. Beautiful flowing Latin, the kind your priest pretends to read and your local lord mangles after 2 goblets of cheap ale. No translation, no pictures, no watchfundung for dummies. Good luck not mistaking maleficum for malediction and accidentally accusing the village dog. You try to read it. The margins bleed with notes from that last guy, ink blobs angry, prayers, a surprisingly detailed sketch of a gallows. Flip a few pages, you'll find a short panicked prayer between 2 paragraphs about torture devices and something that might be a wine stain or maybe blood. Doesn't matter. Every rule is either a vague B, brutal, or C, designed to make you look like you got lost on the way to Hogwarts. Instructions are more like riddles. Should the accused display caprine agitation, proceed immediately to ordeal. Great, so now you need a dictionary and a field guide to medieval livestock moods. Complain all you want, the Inquisition has zero interest in user experience. In 1486, Heinrich Kramer drops the Malleus Maleficarum on the world like a malware link in your inbox. Now you're supposed to quote it mid-trial while peasants throw cabbage and your assistant tries to remember where Latin puts the verb. No appendix, no helpful index, just lots of paragraphs about excruciating iron implements and manifest diabolic infestation. Wondering what counts as insidious pacts. So are the judges, so is everyone. If you can't translate on the fly, hope you're good at improv. Or enjoy making up legalese on the spot, as stated on folio LXXXVII, or maybe LXVII ink's a bit smudged here. The punishment is, stern. If you look confused, congratulations, you're the next one accused of being in league with Satan. Read fast, die slow. Maybe you bluff. Maybe you say, yes, canon 42 subclause 6. And hope no one else knows Latin either. Spoiler, neither does the bailiff. Neither does the priest. The scribe spells Sabbath with 3 BS and a question mark. You're one fake cough away from trial by fire, all because you couldn't pass dead language class. Page stuck. Too bad, just wing it. Nobody's cross-referencing. The only person with actual Latin skills died 6 months ago from plague or possibly boredom. So you pretend. You gesture, you mumble, you sweat through another witch trial with your thumb on a page you barely understand. Every time you hear in absentia, you pray it's not about you. Every sentence is Russian roulette, one word off, and suddenly you've endorsed necromancy. The jury stares unblinking. The accused cries, the priest nods. Is anyone following? Unlikely. But that's bureaucracy for you, where incompetence gets you burned instead of promoted. And remember, ignorance is no excuse. Just ask the last guy who held the manual. Still cold, still chained, still not dead. At least not until the next scribe misreads heretic as herring. God loves you. Until the panic runs out, or the mob gets bored, or your boss needs a scapegoat. So you're the witch hunter, official holy pest control, sanctified by heaven, certified by the worst mustache in your village. Enjoy it while you can. Nothing says job security like divine approval with an expiration date. Your first week you're a local hero. That's you making bonfires with the popular kids and giving neighbors a reason to look nervous at soup night. He's one of God's chosen, they whisper, clutching their children and hiding their lucky spoons. You get free drinks sometimes. Free curses always. The right charm and a mad glint in your eye can buy a lot of goodwill, but watch the supply line. Paranoia peaks early and crashes overnight. Ask Heinrich Kramer, patron saint of Psycho HR and co-author of the Malleus Maleficarum. His own bishop called him a nutcase. That's right, the guy who wrote the witch-hunting Bible wasn't even allowed at his local exorcist potluck. Local clergy snubbed him like he'd brought potato salad with raisins. Too extra for church luncheons, even by medieval standards. You're following his footsteps straight into the swamp. Corporate email still on, but now God's not replying. Let's review faith supposedly protects, but it's less a shield, more a scratch-off lottery ticket. 1 minute you're on team arson for the almighty, torching midwives in the name of a holy spreadsheet. Next, the village cow stops producing milk, and suddenly your miraculous detection methods are more suspicious than inspiring. See if anyone puts your portrait up then. Medieval HR can't spell thanks, but it does know how to spell heretic. Turns out faith is a contract, but the fine print's invisible and the printer ran out of toner. 1 minute you're drowning women and roasting skeptics on the Lord's payroll. Next minute famine hits, crops die, and suddenly you look twitchy when lightning strikes. Maybe try not to sneeze in a thunderstorm. Medieval job tip. Still think your badge gets you out of trouble. Welcome to the witchcraft catch-22. If you don't find witches, are you even doing your job? Find too many and the crowd starts to wonder how you're so in the know. Fun fact, the medieval legal system considered sleep deprivation interrogation a win-win. If you crash it, divine judgment. If you confess paranoia, it's evidence against you. Neat system, right? And when the sky truly falls, Black Plague, Red Moon, tax audit, take your pick, guess who? Suspiciously enthusiastic about lighting those bonfires. Not the mayor, not the priest. Everyone forgets their faith right when the fire gets interesting and you're left holding the stake. Charcoal chic, but with less dignity than your shoes. Society needs villains, especially when crops fail or the king wants a distraction. Thank God for the witch hunter, they said, right up until the day your name landed on the wrong list. The same crowd that cheered you on now hoards pitchforks behind their backs. Your cloak still smells like last week's execution, but now it's you watching for shadows. Paranoia is contagious. Mob justice spreads faster than the pox. So is God still on your side? Check your messages. Hear that? Silence. Also, that's the villagers sharpening sticks again. Still think this cloak makes you look trustworthy. Still blessed just with the cold comfort of plausible deniability. Turns out the wages of sin are paid in charcoal and awkward silences. Good luck cashing those in. You're supposed to know a witch when you see one. Easy, right? Like a medieval version of Spot the Influencer. Except instead of a ring light and collagen gummies, she's got a wart and an unfortunate limp. Now here's the real job description. Stare at your neighbor, squint, and let pure guesswork do the rest. Is she old? Witch. Is she young? Witch, but with better skin. Did you stub your toe and then see her on the street? Congratulations, you're a detective. Detective Clueless meets Criminal Minds, but with more firewood and fewer ethics. The symptoms. Basically anything that made you uncomfortable. Did the milk go sour? Witch. Did your husband cheat and then blame hexed britches? Witch. Livestock looking at you weird. Must be a witch, unless it's just a goat, in which case still suspicious. Didn't like dinner. Definitely witchcraft and possibly underseasoned. Of course there are tests. Sprinkle salt, dunk her in a lake, ask her to recite the Lord's Prayer backward while being tickled with a dead rabbit. Don't laugh, Matthew Hopkins, the witchfinder general, literally thought this was science. Spoiler, your odds of passing depended on whether you floated sank or just annoyed the local priest. Want to get technical? Fine. Look for a witch's mark. Some freckle, mole, or skin tag the victim can't explain. It takes all of 8 seconds for the expert to declare that yes, in fact, that scar from when you tripped over a rake at age 6 is proof you're hosting Satan's pets. If you've got a birthmark, congratulations, you're now public enemy number 1. Minor skin issues replaced LinkedIn endorsements, just less lucrative. Documentation. See also fever dream. The so-called malleus maleficarum, Latin for let's improvise, reads like IKEA instructions written by a demon with carpal tunnel. No diagrams, just a lot of Latin and even more existential dread. For extra flavor, consult the town's rumors, the local priest's dreams, and that one guy who drinks too much cider and claims he saw you flying out the chimney. All solid leads. Here's the secret half: the evidence is she looked at me funny. The other half is God told me in a dream right after I ate moldy bread. If you're still reading the manual, you're already lagging behind the mob with torches. Trust your gut, or what's left of it. Witches must be everywhere because it's never natural causes or basic human error. Blame the weather on the nearest widow, call her cursed, watch your popularity spike. By the end, everyone's an expert and nobody's accountable. If you guess wrong and torch your neighbor, whoops, the devil made you do it. If you guess right, statistically as likely as winning a scratch ticket, congratulations, you're the local hero, at least until the harvest fails and you're next in line. Just hope no one catches that mole you've been hiding since childhood. So how do you spot a witch? Easy. Make it up as you go along. Forget logic. Forget evidence. If you're wrong, nobody remembers your name. If you're right, everyone calls you a hero until the next dry spell or bout of mass hysteria. Still want to work in medieval HR? Didn't think so. Watch your back and your blemishes. Somebody's always looking. You want evidence. Adorable. Only in medieval witch hunting is the burden of proof lighter than an Instagram claim about miracle vitamins. Here's the official toolkit: gossip, gut feelings, and the twitchy testimony of Gertrude, who once saw you frown. Spectral evidence sounds cool right up until you realize it means I dreamed it, so you burn. The legal process. Imagine a courtroom where every objection gets overruled by the moon phase. You get more convincing arguments from a group chat at 3 a.m. Matthew Hopkins, the so-called witchfinder general, proved guilt with methods now reserved for clickbait astrology. Dunk someone in a pond, and if they float, they're evil. If not, they drown. Fun for the whole squad. Forget about fingerprints and alibis. Your fate rests on 3 key sources: jealous neighbors, livestock with indigestion, and whatever fungus is growing under the judge's wig. Did old Nan's bread come out flat? Witch. Dog bark in the night? Witch. Stub your toe. Clearly someone sold their soul to Satan for the low, low price of making you spill your ale. Practicalities: they collect rumors faster than your weird uncle collects conspiracy theories. Forget CSI, this is more Dragon's Den, except nobody's pitching startups, just neighbors. Cursed livestock. Suspicious mole. Your sheep died and so did your reputation. Big accusations need big, well, absolutely nothing. Witnesses. Maybe. Proof. Laughed out of court. If a baby's birthmark looks like a devil's paw, you're toast. If you mutter to yourself in the market square, that's basically a criminal confession. The main forensic test is, did she glare at me last Tuesday? And half the village lines up to say yes. So the paperwork's thin, because why bother with receipts when paranoia pays better? No need for evidence if you can shout heretic louder than your rival. Accusations reproduce like rabbits. Evidence is like medieval toothpaste, which is to say non-existent and definitely not minty. Once in a while they spice things up with the touch test. Blindfold the accused, bring in a victim supposedly bewitched, and see if a handshake stops the fits. Spoiler, it usually does. It's almost as if nerves or mob intimidation might be at play. But don't worry. They'll just add that to the file labeled guilt by coincidence. Can't forget the ever-popular witch's mark, inspection. A mole, rash, or weird freckle is open and shut evidence. No mole. Just prick your skin with pins until they find a numb spot. Congratulations, you've passed the world's worst spa day. Ever heard of chain reaction accusations? Once one person gets hauled and they name 3 others who name 2 each, and suddenly half the town in line for a swim. It's like a pyramid scheme, except the only payout is screaming. The more accusations, the more evidence accumulates. The upside of credibility gets replaced with the raw volume of finger-pointing objectivity drowned under layers of "I just had a feeling." Still, justice must be served, with a flaming side of plausible deniability. Because when every charge is "they looked at me funny," you're basically writing laws in invisible ink. But keep shouting, keep dunking, still no evidence, still cold, still chained, still waiting for someone to invent a receipt. Therapy, meditation, journaling. What do all these things have in common? Right? Unavailable, illegal, and totally unknown. When you're a medieval witch hunter with a penchant for emotional numbness and absolutely zero training in self-care. The tools of your trade are less healing crystal and more hot iron in the face. Welcome to the ultimate wellness retreat, a basement full of medieval torture implements and the ambient sound of grown men weeping. You think your ergonomic desk chair is uncomfortable? Try a stretching rack. Richard Topcliffe, fan favorite for all masochists, could literally dislocate your optimism along with your limbs. He probably even made "crank it up a notch" into a literal workplace hazard. This is the original CrossFit no gain, all pain, strong chance of screaming yourself into an early grave. Let's talk amenities. You've got the stocks, whips, and the Spanish boot, a wooden vice that crushes your legs until walking is your most traumatic flashback. There's the infamous Judas chair. It's basically ergonomic if you're shaped like a traffic cone, bonus points if you survive more than 5 minutes. Or maybe you're due for the ducking stool. Some soggy team-building medieval style get almost drowned in river water colder than your supervisor's heart. Take a seat in the interview chair, also known as the Iron Maiden. Yes, it's real. No, it's not just a heavy metal band. It's public HR for people who thought honest feedback meant iron spikes and prolonged agony. Would you like some solitary confinement with that? Too bad you're getting both. Safety standards. OSHA who? The pair of anguish was a device literally designed to open you up mentally and physically like medieval group therapy, except here nobody gets closure, they just get broken. Or how about thumb screws, still statistically more effective for getting confessions than the entire modern self-help section at Barnes Noble. Efficiency 100. Fraud detection rate 0. Let's not forget sensory ambience, windows with views of rat straw bedding, infested with whatever killed last week's guest, and a complimentary soundtrack of muffled howls. Candlelight. Not for mood, just so you can see how desperate you look before sunrise. Want to take a break? That's called passing out, and it's the only PTO you'll get. Half the time you can't tell if you're interrogating a witch or just making up for your own childhood trauma with small metal spikes and a bucket of cold water. But don't worry, the job description was really clear. No actual skills, plenty of opportunities for interpersonal violence, must be okay with screaming. No dental or mental health is provided. If you want catharsis, try humming loudly to drown out the noise. Let's be honest, the real miracle isn't finding witches. It's making it through a season in HR without becoming one. By the time you finish wrangling all those confessions out of your trembling neighbors, you're not sleeping, the room still stinks of blood, and the only thing left to torture is your own memory. Still not a witch, still chained, and now you need therapy even more than they do. But don't worry. You can always invent journaling if they ever unchain your hands. Until then, it's you, your guilt, and a parade of medieval wellness tools. Hope you enjoy the retreat. Checkouts at Never. Let's run through tonight's special. You want a confession? Perfect. Step 1, take your suspect. Let's just call them the only person in town who still owns a goat and drop them in a stone box. No central heating, no candlelight, just rank darkness and a climate best described as Arctic trench foot. The mattress is a slab possibly enhanced with lice, and the only flavor profile is mold. Welcome to your personalized wellness retreat. Smells like rotting straw, sounds like someone retching, feels like a dare gone bad. You expect a friendly chat. Try again. This is not spa day, it's corporate team building for sadists with all the warmth of a hypothermic handshake. Your amenities: ankle chains fused to the floor, a bucket so toxic it could file a grievance, and oh look, a guard whose hobbies include sighing and occasionally poking you with a stick. Rats roam the halls like they're running for mayor. You might make friends, just don't blink or you'll lose a toe. Now we get to the highlight reel: confessions. Medieval police work wasn't innocent until proven guilty. It was more guilty until you invent new crimes just to make it stop. Exhibit: a thumb cruise. Looks like a prototype corkscrew used like a lie detector with settings for snap, crunch, and please make the bleeding stop. Next, strapado. A simple innovation: tie your arms behind your back, hoist you up with a rope, and drop you until your shoulders wave the white flag. If you love CrossFit but wish it ended with permanent nerve damage, strapado for you. And for the patrons who demand old school water features, waterboarding medieval edition, just a rag, a bucket, and the sense that God stopped listening last Thursday. Geneva Conventions. Haven't heard of her. All ethical guidelines went out with the chamber pot. You're left with the wisdom of Magistrate Conrad, whose greatest legal qualification is that he's bored and owns a robe. Divine justice means you're guilty because you look tired or because the bread rose funny last week. Just pray he doesn't get creative. Sometimes they'd sprinkle in red-hot tongs iron boots, or why not, forced fasting until you hallucinate your own confession. This isn't about getting to the truth. It's about breaking you faster than a cheap hinge. Forget Miranda rights. Forget lawyers. You get one real perk: the acoustics are phenomenal, so your screaming echoes for miles. Classic customer feedback loop: you confess, you hang. You don't confess, you get the deluxe bonus round: splinters, burns, dislocated joints. Repeat until morale improves. Half the prisoners never made it to confession, the rest invented crimes just to end the team-building exercises. In theory, consistency mattered. In reality, if your third story doesn't match your first, who cares? That's just evidence you're crafty, or possessed, or both, depending on how bored Conrad is that day. You imply your neighbor is a witch. Big win for the prosecution. Her goat's next. You panic, you invent wild tales, you admit to flying naked on Sundays. Everyone's happy except for literally everyone. Still think you're different, still think you'll hold out. Here's the stat: most confessions came after 3 nights, sometimes less if it rained or if the sausages upstairs went bad. You'll scream. You'll confess. You'll scream some more now with bonus splinters and maybe a hernia. Medieval justice: try to outlast the hazing season. Still cold. Still chained. Still screaming. Ever bought into a scam where the only prize is more screaming? Welcome to the witch hunt's history's original pyramid scheme of pain. Here you accuse your neighbor to avoid the rack, she accuses her sister to dodge the pyre, and before you know it, half the village is pointing fingers like it's medieval Survivor. except the only immunity is dying first. Let's get specific. One confession in Wuisburg, 60 more names dragged into hell by sundown. In Salem, Abigail sneezes and suddenly Goody Proctor rode a wolf. If you're quiet, you're suspicious. If you talk, you sound suspicious. If you try to run, congratulations, now you're the world's slowest fugitive and they'll catch you before dinner. These aren't random acts, it's a blueprint for social collapse plagiarized by every office, room, or mill that ever followed. This isn't justice. It's a group project in hell. Every confession is a buy-in. Torture someone enough and they'll sell out anyone, friends, family, their own reflection in a muddy puddle. The real winners are the guys inventing new thumbscrews because nothing says economic growth like the devil's own Etsy shop. Tools upgraded fast. Iron maidens ducking stools, witches' bridles, sharp enough to silence your soul. You want startup culture? Try a town where your neighbor's personal improvement plan ends with you on a firewood pile. You want a fact? In Bamberg, Germany, the Prince Bishop Heinrich Franz von Stadion cranked up the witch trials so effectively he bankrupted his own city. Burnt peasants don't pay taxes, Heinrich. But who's counting when the pain keeps rolling down the hill like medieval debt, except now the collectors are holding hot irons? The investigation only amplifies the pain. Accused, pay for your own prison food. No coins. Enjoy rotting in straw and eating air. Family visits, only if they cough up extra. And surprise, if you outlive the torture, your land gets seized anyway. Call it asset redistribution medieval edition. That's not law and order, that's monopoly with actual blood on the board. The rules are simple: accuse to survive, survive to accuse, repeat, until your teeth fall out from stress or someone finally blames you for the weather. Don't like it? Congratulations, you've just reinvented multi-level marketing, only with more plague and fewer gift baskets. Pyramid schemes promise riches at the top. This one promises you'll be dead before you ever figure out who's running the meeting. Nobody trusts anyone, but everyone's spinning names. Children accuse parents. Servants betray masters. Wives sell out husbands and vice versa. Some witches even invent fake conspiracies just to sound useful. By the end, the local priest is weeping, the mayor is screaming, and the notary is running out of parchment. Still, the pain keeps compounding like medieval interest rates, but the only payoff is a nervous breakdown and an empty grave. By tomorrow, you'll be hiding, accusing, confessing, or dead. Maybe all four. Who needs sleep when you can stay busy dodging the next chain in this endless conga line of agony? You stare at the ceiling and wait for a knock or a torch or a rumor that has your name on it. Still want your promotion, Witchfinder? Don't worry, the only way up is by climbing over burning bodies. Still smoky. Still screaming, still not at the top. Next stop on your cursed career, ladder, Witchfinder General, a title so gilded it screams management material. If your management style is fire everyone literally. You got the cloak, the badge, the 30p expense account, and an entire village cowering because you know how to spell diabolism. This is what happens when HR is outsourced to someone whose main qualification is not currently burning. Congratulations, you're middle management in hell's most dysfunctional startup. You step outside and the perks hit you immediately. Free travel, complimentary room, instant respect from townsfolk, if by respect you mean sheer bowel-loosening terror. One flash of your parchment credentials and everyone in town suddenly remembers seeing their neighbor fly on a stick or curse at a cow. Your employee handbook, scrawled on pigskin and mostly illustrations of people drowning. Vacation days, sure if you count getting mistaken for a witch on your day off. Now you're the boss, but here's the twist: the only thing scarier than all the so-called witches is your own HR department, which is basically a mob with bad teeth and access to pitchforks. Last week you're waterboarding a grandmother for sneezing too dramatically. This week you're dodging the village blacksmith because his cousin's up next for trial. Think company Slack channel just replace memes with anonymous curses and employee feedback with pig's blood on your door. Office politics is less, who stole my lunch, and more, who snitched to the priest. Bonus, you can't even eat your lunch since every loaf of bread comes with rumors of poison. Who runs this show? Not you actually. Say hi to Matthew Hopkins, England's very own LinkedIn-inflated witchfinder general. He went from failed lawyer to nationwide terror after 1644, powered by Protestant guilt and the stamina of a man who's never heard of sleep hygiene. His secret: paranoia travel stipends and a 0% conviction reversal rate. Hopkins managed to rack up 300 executions in 3 years. Basically, the sales quota from hell, and nobody ever asked for references. If you thought office KPIs were rough, try bodies stacked by sunset or you're next. Try delegating, you'll see how it goes. Got a few deputies, which is a nice word for men whose only skills are illiteracy and the ability to hold a torch without crying. No training program, just vibes. More like the world's worst team-building retreat. Trust falls, but everyone's armed, and trust is punishable by death. Your right-hand man is a pricker. His job is stabbing people until they confess. Accountability: less a system, more a rumor. If the village idiot trips over a broom, someone's getting burned by Friday. Your daily checklist: survive rumor, bribe, stabbing, and existential dread. Forget dental. Your health plan is not being beaten to death in a tavern parking lot. HR won't tell you, but there's a 50-50 chance your deputy tries to implicate you before payday. You're surrounded by informant sycophants and that one guy who only blinks when you're not looking. Office morale is subterranean, but technically unemployment is worse. Best part: office morale. Your public enemy number 1 unless the wind shifts, and then your public enemy number 2 right behind cats and women who know math. Sometimes you're greeted with applause, sometimes it's bricks. Everyone needs a scapegoat, sometimes it's them, sometimes it's you. Crack under pressure. Don't worry. There's always a vacancy for village idiot. Still chained. Still cold. Now with a hat. So welcome to middle management, where the only ladder you get is for hanging, and your best retirement plan is hiding until people forget your name. Still want to complain about your boss? At least yours rarely arrives with torches. You know what's awkward? Realizing half the town wants to watch you burn a witch, until it's the mayor's wife on trial. Oops. Guess you should've double-checked the name on that suspicious cunning woman report. But hey, it's medieval Europe. Every day is casual Friday for public executions, until the head of city council shows up demanding her silver back and her spouse uncharred. Now you're trapped in a medieval HR escape room with no clues and all the doors locked from the outside. On one side, the mob howling for justice like medieval Yelp reviewers demanding 5 stars excellent pyre. On the other, the mayor's guildmates are already writing stern letters about community trust and coughing into their poisoned wine. Hope you weren't planning on sleeping, because you won't, unless you count the stone bench in the jail where your next-door cellmate is Old Tom and his rats. Because let's be clear, reputation is everything, and yours just tripped into a midden heap. It's not just that you put the wrong name on the paperwork. You accidentally set fire to the entire social food chain. 1 hour ago, you were a local authority, grim and respectable in your best roughly woven sackcloth. Now you're the punchline of the weekly sermon, and not in the funny way. Mothers are already teaching their kids a rhyme about your blunder, something that'll circle the marketplace for decades. Catch a witch but miss the wife, lose your job and also your life. Procedural error. Please. Witch hunters invented procedural error. Matthew Hopkins, England's very own witchfinder general, Once accidentally accused a judge's girlfriend. Results immediate career doomspadrun. Real paperwork zero. Real lynching still pending. Try explaining to management that you just followed protocol in a country where your job description changes every time you blink. Need an example? Just last winter, the steward's nephew fingered the town baker's wife for knowing too much about herbs. She got dragged onto the square ropes in place until someone remembered she bakes the best rye bread north of the river. Suddenly everyone, not so sure we have enough evidence. Mob pivots faster than a mill wheel. Next day, the accuser is peeling turnips and not making eye contact. Let's say miraculously the mayor's wife walks free. Congratulations. Your justice system is now on extended microlending. Every bribe, every grudging handshake, every side-eye from the clergy is a down payment on your next mistake. Your coworkers, already calling dibs on your boots. The town scribe is updating the list of things not to do, and your name, in bold. Forget upward mobility, you'll be lucky to hang onto your ankles. The only thing worse than getting the name wrong is getting it right and living long enough for everyone to change sides. By tomorrow, the mob will swear they loved her scones, the mayor will forget your name, and you'll be up next for trial by irony. Good luck getting severance pay when your only reference says executioner's apprentice prone to inconvenient enthusiasm. Mob still outside. Pitchforks fire bad haircuts. The mayor's wife is crying. The mayor's crying. You should probably start crying too. Bad news, the crowd demands justice even when they have to swap their targets mid-torches. You think you're in charge. Nope. You're next. Still want to play God's HR. Newsflash, now you're on performance review. And the firewood's already stacked. Congratulations, you've lit the match on somebody's grandma. Now hope Nana's knitting circle doesn't show up with pitchforks and a grudge. Because in case you haven't noticed, mob justice isn't exactly a performance review. You don't want feedback from the crowd, especially when it's carrying torches and has zero sense of irony. You don't have to scroll far through medieval history to see how this plays out. Crowd control, not a thing. Local law enforcement. That's Derek the blacksmith's son, who's already had 3 tankards. There are no body cams, only bodies, and most of them are relatives of the last suspicious woman in your queue. All it takes is 1 sour harvest, 2 bad omens, or 3 missing cats, and suddenly your side hustle as witchfinder is trending for the wrong reasons. See, you thought the job sucked because of screaming poverty or the charming eczema you got from sleeping in flea-infested hay. Nope. The real itch comes when the neighbors remember you torched their favorite herbalist. Medieval crowds are like Twitter mobs strapped for time and low on dopamine. Add cheap wine and you've got instant riot. Just add 1 false move. And remember, the crowd is not your friend. There's no audience engagement here unless you count rotten vegetables to the face. One day you're God's avenger, the public face of vigilant morality. The next you're the local supply chain problem. Newsflash, the village midwife you called out cured more headaches than your prayers ever did. Muthya Hupkins, the Watchfunda General, Mr. Overachiever, lasted, 3 years? That's less time than most people keep a gym membership. Why? Turns out after burning half the local spice trade and everyone's godmother, suddenly you're not God's instrument. You're the guy nobody shares bread with. Ever watched a crowd turn on its own hype man? Spoiler, bread gets thrown. Want a list of mob mood swings? Let's walk through it. Applause as you single out a new witch. Nervous coughs when you point at someone's cousin. Open glares when someone's bread goes mysteriously flat. Wait, didn't that same cousin bake last week? Rocks. Rocks are universal. There's no unfollow here, just hard reset. Maybe they cut your purse. Maybe they cut you. Either way, your Yelp review is getting ugly fast. Back then, you didn't need a LinkedIn to get canceled. Town gossip moved faster than a plague rat at harvest. And don't kid yourself about witnesses. The local carpenter remembers exactly how you accused his sister, and he's got a hammer and nothing to lose. Remember those nervous laughs at your jokes last week? Now it's just silence punctuated by the clank of someone sharpening something. And your getaway, hopes, prayers, and shoes stolen off an actual corpse. By now you're starring in your own survival reality show minus the prize money or meal breaks. The crowd's taste for justice turns instantly feral. Yesterday you were leading, today your lunch. At best you get run out of town. Congratulations, enjoy the next swamp. At worst, congratulations. Now you're the witch. Oh, you wanted mobility. Try running with a sprained ankle, a reputation like leprosy and medieval shoes. Still want to work remote. There's no town waffa, just angry villagers and a pile of regrets. Good luck. Still chained to public opinion. Still burning, but now it's your turn. Bright side. At least you won't have to explain yourself in another HR exit interview. Your new supervisors use pitchforks, not paperwork. Welcome to the harshest performance audit in history. Still think you're ready. Hope you like angry neighbors. You thought being a witch hunter put you above the rabble, didn't you? Little badge, big hat pockets full of donations, gleefully stuffed from anxious villagers. The good old days when you could slap a bribe straight in the ledger and call it divine favor. 3 chickens, a bag of grain, grandma's only goat, also you'd forget the suspicious mole on her left cheek. But here's the punchline: nothing's recession-proof, not even paranoia. Welcome to inflation. Like everything else in medieval life, plague rats, existential despair. The price of looking the other way only ever went up. Turns out hunting imaginary women required real coin. You're out there squeezing terrified bakers for hush money, and suddenly the Bakers Guild triples your discretion fee because last week you set fire to the neighbor's cat. Supply and demand in hell. Sure, you started off trading in poultry and prayer, but fast forward a few hungry years and bribes have gone full Wall Street. The blacksmith's wife offers up a silver thimble. You scoff, but that's basically her life savings in a thimble. And now it barely buys you half a bowl of rotten cabbage soup at the inn. Gold coins. By the time you've counted them, the king's just minted new ones, and your stash is worth less than the mud clinging to your boots. Congratulations, you're the proud owner of wildly depreciating assets, all smuggled out of desperate hands. Muthya Hupkins, that 17th century amateur accountant with a noose, reportedly made £1,000 off his services. That's not small change, that's own the county money. Except 5 minutes later the price of barley doubled, and your gold's worth less than a damp sock. Guess who still starves next winter? Spoiler, it's you, but now you also have gout. Bribery follows the same rules as rent hikes and concert tickets. Once people know they can get more, they want more. Suddenly it's not even hush money, it's a bidding war. The priest wants a new roof, the sheriff wants a new horse, and you get exactly 1 crust of bread for expediting the paperwork for a poor widow's trial. Even your bribes have hidden fees. New boots, a bribe. Permission to drink the well water without accidentally getting accused yourself, also a bribe. A smile from a barmaid who doesn't think you smell like burnt trouble. That'll be extra and cash only. Need more proof? Try making a list of your perks. The mayor's daughter bakes you a pie. The tanner slides you a fresh cloak. The local doctor slips you a bottle of questionable tonic. Except while you're racking up favors, everyone else is raising their prices behind your back. By the end of the week, inflation's chewed through your stash faster than you can say false testimony. Everybody's calculating. 2 coins become 1 goat becomes half a promise. There's no such thing as a harmless favor when the miller's charging double rent because he heard your axe is blunt. You can't buy loyalty if the exchange rate only goes one way downhill. And when the price of bread climbs higher than the village stocks well, try eating your reputation. But hey, even Judas only got 30 pieces of silver. And look how well that turned out. Still chained, still hungry now with capital gains tax. So much for getting ahead. Burnout. You want to talk about burnout? Try explaining to your boss why you smell like smoke and guilt and the pyre's still sizzling out back. Welcome to the literal edition where toasting at work is less happy hour, more public execution. Congratulations, you're the Guy Fieri of pain, only everyone's flavor profile is ash. Here's the drill: you round up witches, neighbors, enemies, your landlord's annoying cousin, and the whole town comes to watch. Picture a medieval TikTok live stream, except it's your hands tying the stakes and everyone's favorite emoji is a flaming skull. Sure, the crowd brings snacks, but subtlety didn't make it through the Black Death. Logistics. Forget spreadsheets, just mud ropes and a town crier with the emotional range of a brick. The execution site. Imagine your local park, but add gallows humor, actual gallows, and about a year's worth of bonfire smell crusted into your clothes. Someone hands you a torch that's been used so many times it has a notch for every name. The only safety training you get is "don't stand upwind," yelled by the apprentice who's angling for your job. You're the star for a hot minute, then the smoke dies down and your conscience pipes up. Marjorie Sampson, 67, coughs her final curse. Half the mob leaves before the body cools. Now you're standing in the ruins looking out for God, angry husbands, and your upcoming performance review. Good luck finding hazard pay in this economy. Let's not forget the technicalities. The Malleus Maleficarum says immolate generously, but skips the skin-melting details. No gloves, no fire safety tips, just you, a crowd, and a nervous priest who double knots his shoelaces. Ever tried scrubbing burnt hair out of wool? Add that to your LinkedIn. The bureaucrats want your tally sheets, how many witches, how many buckets of pitch. But never ask how you're sleeping. Spoiler, you're not. Worried about morale. Spoiler, it's at an all-time low. The local ale tastes like regret, and team building now means huddling around the fire, hopping the next witch isn't your sister. Sometimes you hear sobbing. Sometimes it's you. Mostly it's just the smell, like a barbecue nobody asked for and nobody's walking away from. You think you'll get used to it. Newsflash, you won't. The charred wood crunches different underfoot every time. The screams change from person to person, but the silence afterward is identical. On the third round this week, you start humming just to drown it out. Your supervisor says that's unprofessional. Right? Wouldn't want to tarnish the reputation of witch burners local 109. Don't forget what happens after the fire cleanup. Melted shoes, soot-stained faces, omelets made over still smoking coals because nobody can taste anything anymore. By Sunday, you can't scrub the stink off your hands or the guilt out of your chest. But sure, let's workshop your self-care strategy. Breathe in, breathe out, blame the smoke. Burnout, you wish. This isn't 9 to 5. It's 9 till someone backstabs you. And the only 401 is a pile of blackened bones, still chained, still cold, still not dead, just burnt out in every sense. Next performance review needs improvement. Too bad there's no one left to write it. Promotion or pyre. That's the whole menu. You dropped your resume off at the medieval job fair. Congratulations, you just signed up for lifetime employment. And by lifetime, I mean everyone else deciding when yours ends. If you wanted career advancement, you should have married into the Habsburgs. At least their family drama ends in a convenient staircase accident, not a fire pit with your name in Latin. You think you're climbing the ladder, but it's mostly made of splinters and missing rungs. New position. Same cold boots, different torch. 1 minute you're shaking down peasants for herbal tea recipes, the next you're the most popular guy in town. Right up until the mob spots the chunk of silver in your boot and decides you're a little too good at finding witches. Spoiler, witch hunter general in England lasted a grand total of 3 productive apocalypse years. Then, retirement starts to look a lot like community barbecue. Bring your own kindling. No severance package, but you do get front row tickets to everyone's rage. Burn enough accused at the stake and suddenly people remember your childhood nicknames, except now they rhyme with traitor and arsonist. Enjoy the perks: sleepless nights, a rotating cast of nervous informants, and a reputation built on fear. Your best friends are the smell of smoke and the mayor's nervous glances. Matthew Hopkins goes from judge, jury, pyromaniac to who? In about the time it takes an angry mob to sharpen pitchforks. No gold watch, just a crowd quietly deciding whose turn it is next. Statistically, half of them think it's yours and don't get ideas. Job hopping doesn't exist. There's no LinkedIn for Witchfinder alumni. Consider your options carefully. Catch too many witches. Clearly you know too much time for the fire. Catch too few. Conspiracy with the devil, also fire. Show up late, suspicious. Guess what, also fire. Make everyone nervous, it's always fire. The real joke. That corner office you dreamed of is just a bigger cell with more locks and worse ventilation. Your promotion speech is basically, congrats, you survived last winter and didn't accidentally torch the mayor's dog. No bonus unless you count extra nightmares. Medieval HR's annual review, still breathing. Try not to. Even the so-called winners know the prize is just a slower roast. The higher you climb, the more you smell smoke behind you, because someone's always lighting the next stake, and these crowds could roast a brisket for every accusation. You don't retire, you vanish. Sometimes up a chimney, sometimes mysteriously. Either way, there's no pension plan unless you count the grave plot. You wanted options. Here they are, up in flames or out the door. Either way, the next opening's probably your own grave. Still want to hear about medieval job security? Here's a hint: still flammable, still fired. Here's the thing about medieval witch hunting: you didn't just wreck lives, you took down your own social circle faster than a birthday party with food poisoning. Nothing screams family bonding like hauling your cousin to the rack because she sneezed near the vicar. Friends, forget it. Try having brunch when everyone's making sure nobody floats. This isn't just shunning. It's full-bore social scorched earth. Invite someone for a chat over porridge and suddenly sorry, got to milk my dog. Birthday parties. Hope you like sitting alone blowing out a single tallow candle while the only guests are bad memories and a judge with a quill. Try planning a wedding after you've turned half the town square into an open-air confession booth. Spoiler, seating chart just lists Witchfinder and a bunch of empty benches. Worst part, your reputation. Strewn on the floor like teeth after a Black Death dental checkup. All those early morning sermons about honesty and charity. Gone. Now you're the fun-sucking dementor at every village gathering. Spoiler, no one wants to help you move when your side hustle is accidental arson and targeted kidnapping. Let's get logistical. It's not just friends, you need witnesses. The same neighbors who used to loan you flour are the ones you're grilling about the mark of Satan under old Mrs. Tilted's dress. People start washing their hands when you walk in. Suddenly, everyone's allergic to small talk and eye contact. Try organizing a barn raising with a crew paranoid you'll call down the bailiff if they sneeze at the wrong candle. Let's do the math, Witchfinder Matthias. I swear she's guilty, Hopkins style for every witch. You root out, you add 2 new enemies minus 1 best friend, divide by the town's collective trust. Fun fact, Hopkins himself ended up terrifying so many people that even the Puritans wanted him gone. That's the social equivalent of getting ghosted by a kidnapper. Remember that witch's mark exam. Congratulations, you just invented door-to-door awkwardness. Best case scenario, you're the nosy neighbor everyone avoids. Worst case, the crowd shows up on your doorstep, suddenly curious about your birthmark. Suspicion ping-pongs, and now you're stuck in a town-sized trust fall without the trust or the fall. You think you can keep it professional. Try accusing someone's grandmother, then getting invited to their funeral. You'll be standing in the back eating rye bread praying nobody remembers you're the reason the coffin smells like ham. Small town long memories, especially when half the congregation's related to your last find. Let's talk holidays, before which panic-hit festivals meant drinks, bonfires, and enough mide-soaked gossip to melt an ice saint. Now it's just you patrolling for hexes while everyone else pretends their shoes need urgent fixing across the field. Toasts get shorter. Toasts get frostier. Even the village drunk won't slur a word in your direction. And if you figure, hey, at least the family will understand, maybe get you a drink at the tavern. Now, enjoy your spot in the corner right between the rusty plow and the goat with unresolved trauma. Everyone's eyeing you like you're about to randomly shout "witch" at the bartender and ruin happy hour. Your dignity, it's gone. Sometimes literally, public shamming was a team sport. Fancy being spat on by a pack of 12-year-olds while you're explaining to grandma why you set her neighbor's chickens on fire for evidence. If reputation is currency, medieval watchfundas traded it for store credit at the world's worst market. So yes, congratulations. You've got power, but sleep, gone, friends, ashes, dignity still cold, still chained, still not dead. You thought witch hunting was about torches, rage, and maybe, just maybe, a job perk involving haunted hats. Wrong. Welcome to court, where everyone is here to murder their boss and you are the boss. Not a trial, not a counsel. An open mic night for betrayal. The stakes. Your skin. Imagine this: you're sweating in front of a table sagging with stale cheese, too many quills, and exactly 0 friends. There's a bored scribe idly tallying every time your name gets pronounced with extra venom. The judge. More like the head cheerleader at a back alley brawl. 15 men in tights, all pretending they care about the truth, but really just rehearsing their best shocked faces for the executioner. Forget evidence. If you have it, it's adorable and irrelevant. They've got a wheelbarrow full of rumors stamped urgent. Last winter's unpaid debts become satanic rituals. Watch as old Agnes claims she saw you turn ale into cream, but look a little closer. She can't turn pages without help. Next comes your character witness, a butcher who hasn't sold you mutton in 4 months and just called you a heretic with suspicious calves. The priest. He's so sleep-deprived he started speaking in tongues, but at least it sounds holy. Nobody's searching for truth. They're searching for a scapegoat with a memorable face. See those jurors? Half are neighbors you once fined for letting pigs wander into the street. The other half are calculating how close they need to stand to get your boots after you're dead. Hazing, but with legal paperwork and more arson. Review your options, deny everything, and you're uncooperative. Confess, and maybe they'll forget to torture your family. Accuse your drinking buddy and watch him outpace you sprinting to lead the mob. It's a Viper Pit talent show. Even Summon Kyle would walk out. Oh, and remember Matthew Hopkins. Witchfinder General. Big title, fast exit. Less than 3 years on the job, spent most of them dodging pitchforks. Legend says he called a rival a devil worshipper, tripped over his own indictment, and congrats, new grave plot. Bosses come and go. Paranoia is forever. This isn't about witches, it's about turnover. You can't network your way out. Last week you burned Meg for weird bread, today her cousin's telling tales about your cat. Evil squint. That silver crucifix on your neck. It's next month's loot. Try looking for loyalty, just don't check behind you. Don't bring reason. Bring a sturdy cloak and a spare will. Some nights all it takes to end up here is arguing over pig prices or, God forbid, reading without moving your lips. Congratulations, your career path was a circle, and now it's drawing a target. So justice. Only if you spell it J-O-U-S you're on trial for surviving one more harvest than your enemies. The crowd might cheer, but tomorrow they'll fight over your chair, your dog, and your dented mug. No appeals board. Just a half-drunk mob and a pyre that never clocks out. Still think HR was bad. At least they sent emails instead of executioners. At least your annual review didn't end with someone measuring you for chains. But hey, if you're lucky you'll earn a spot in the stories. Just hope it's not as the one who couldn't duck fast enough. So you spend your whole life roasting peasants, poking at old women with a stick and shouting witch at anyone who makes a nicer stew than you. Guess what? Joke's on you. The village has finally read the plot twist, and you're the devil now. Witch hunter meet job security, 0 hours, 0 sympathy, and an angry mob that thinks pitchforks are a personality type. 1 minute you're Matthew Hopkins, Witchfinder General, strutting around like you're in a bad episode of Undercover Boss. The next the crowd's chanting your name, but not in a fun way. You recognize the words heretic, demon. Hey, isn't that the guy who made Grandma walk on hot coals? The mob justice meter goes from awkward stares to hungry pack of crows, and your black cloak is now officially a bull's. Let's get specific. Remember that time you made a pregnant woman confess under gentle interrogation? Everyone else does. You thought bruised ribs and forced confessions were just part of the performance review. Now it's your turn in the stocks, and the tomatoes are extra ripe. Feels less like justice, more like an employee feedback session led by angry villagers and 2 goats. You used to make the rules, check for birthmarks, toss suspects in the river, invent a few tests after lunch. Now they're inventing new tests just for you. Ducking stools, thumb screws, or maybe something creative like guess the number of sins. Bonus points if you cry. Spoiler, you always do. You thought you were cleaning up Satan's mess. Turns out the job description was the mess. Bonus round, all those enemies you made. Still here. Still angry, still know where you live. Small towns never forget, especially when you made half of them confess to kissing the devil's butt in the woods. Spoiler, you are now the most eligible scapegoat at the witch trials of Tapata. You want receipts. Too bad no one's reading them. No one cares about your manual in bad Latin. The Inquisition. They're busy or pretending not to know you. Buneduct from down the lane, the one who once hid you in his root cellar. He's playing both sides now and somehow ends up with your house keys. Your friends, already melting into the background like bad wallpaper. Your neighbors, waiting to see if you float. Turns out paranoia is contagious. All those whispered accusations and midnight stakeouts set a tone, and now it's set to full blast with your name on repeat. Did you use witchcraft to get your job? You passed every exam with flying colors. Suspicious. Did you ever lose your place in church? Classic sign you were never on God's team. Did you once sneeze twice in a row? Devil confirmed. Suddenly the bonfire looks personal. Last time you used it the crowd cheered. This time you're the guest of honor. Still warm, still chained. Still the devil apparently. The moral. If you invent a game where everyone can lose, don't act surprised when you're picked next. Grass stains outlive scapegoats. And in this neighborhood, the wheel of blame always comes back around. Hang up your cloak, Witchfinder. You're just another legend for the next burn pile. Still not dead. Still not innocent. Still wondering who's next. Section title: Public thanks, rocks, rotten eggs, and sudden unemployment. Here you are thinking maybe you'll get a parade. Medieval style, the kind where they chant your name then start throwing. If you're lucky, it's vegetables. If you're honest, it's rocks. Newsflash: public thanks for a witch hunter makes Twitter cancellation look like a spa day. Your Fenbus. A crowd of plague-breathed villagers who can't decide if you're a holy hero or just another demon in shoes. Fresh off burning their neighbor. Haunted. Cat you strut into town square. They greet you with gratitude, if gratitude comes cartwheeled in rotten eggs and creative insults. Being trending means you're ducking for your life ankle deep in compost, wondering if humiliation burns slower than actual fire. Forget medals. Your accolades arrive in the form of laundry lists, pay for broken doors, fix last week's property damage, and clean up your own mess. If some innkeeper dares serve you soup, enjoy the extra seasoning. A dash of goat hair, 2 dead flies, and a look that says, "I hope you choke." Turns out witch hunting is less defender of the faith, more professional homewrecker with a badge. The mayor will shake your hand the morning after, but don't bother stopping by the bakery. The bread's half price and twice as hard if it's for you. Let's break down your medieval compensation package: a week of glory, a month of stench, and lifelong regret in the form of every kid with a rock and a grudge. Your career path makes modern unemployment look like an ad for LinkedIn Premium. Matthew Hopkins, England's own Witchfinder General, finished his run so beloved people forgot he existed before he even died. Imagine being ghosted by history before ghosting was cool. Job security. File it next to Witch's honor code, somewhere between fantasy and farce. There's a 90% chance your accusations stick, until you run out of witches or wealthy neighbors get spooked. Then suddenly the prosecution baton in your face. Today's revered investigator, tomorrow's very awkward defendant. Remember, every town scapegoat needs a goat. Eventually they realize you look oddly familiar. Job satisfaction hits different once the priests stop calling and everyone else starts pointing. Turns out divine instrument has a 30-day trial, no renewal. You're not the sword of God anymore, just that sweaty guy who screams at grandmas and sniffs herbal tea for clues. Think celebrity chef, except you only serve humble pie and someone's always spitting in it. Let's not forget professional hazards. Bitten by possessed livestock. You're fine until rumors start. He flinched at salt, must be cursed. You lose track of which farmer hates you for torching their barn and which wants to help just so you'll finally leave. Even your dog won't sit with you on feast days. Collect your thanks. It's in the form of sudden unemployment courtesy of the mob. Hope you like eggshells in your beard and your name on next month's arrest warrant. Still thinking about that hero parade? Sorry. The only ticker tape around here is made from last week's wanted posters, yours still wet from the rain. So take your bow. Tomorrow the applause turns to jeers. Next week it's your face smeared on some most wanted board shivering under a leaky thatch. Public gratitude blink and you'll miss it because you're too busy running for your life. Retirement, sure. Like anybody escapes this gig with both kneecaps and a reputation. You've spent years elbow deep in the existential sewage of witch hunting, reading panic attacks for clues and wondering if sleep is just a rumor. Now it's time to step down gracefully. Translation. Run until your lungs file for divorce.